Before we talk about what happened to the consumables vans, we need to deal with a strange problem. There are almost no surviving photographs of them. I've got just 3. A Motalink advert, an interior shot in low resolution, and a job advert. That's it. So to explain what these vans were, and why the photographic record is so thin, we have to go backwards, further back than the haulage yard, further back than the engineering shop, because the consumables van wasn't a sudden invention. It was the last chapter of a very old story, the story of the shop that came to you. If you go back to the 19th and early 20th century, you'll find the first mobile shops were literally horse-drawn. Grocers, haberdashers, tinkers with pots and pans, general stores on wheels. They travelled to farms and cottages because, frankly, people had no other access to supplies. Nobody photographed them much, they were just part of life. By the 1950s and 60s, the horse had become a Bedford or a Ford. The idea was the same. If the community was isolated, the shop drove out to them. These were the last years when the travelling shop was a familiar sight. Milk, bread, paraffin, basic tools, pots, pans, nails, household bits and bobs. And again, there are only a few photographs. People didn't take pictures of everyday things. The extraordinary gets photographed, the ordinary vanishes, and this is the visual lineage the consumables vans belong to. The 1960s were the golden age of road transport. Several factors caused a shift away from rail and towards road haulage. The beaching cuts closed many rural railway halts. New motorways made road transport faster and more efficient. Industrial decentralisation meant factories and depots were scattered across the country. Transport firms often set up near closed railway halts, taking advantage of remaining infrastructure along the new motorways on old industrial peripheries, often far away from traditional suppliers. These firms built their own workshops and repair bays to maintain their vehicles, but carrying every nut, bolt, hose, fitting, bulb and clip on site wasn't viable. There were simply too many small, fast-moving parts to stock efficiently. Enter Motalink, founded by Robin Bourne and Peter Foreman. The concept was simple but revolutionary, vans carrying everything a transport workshop consumed on a weekly basis. Motalink didn't just sell parts, it became a true parts partner to the haulage industry. Weekly visits created predictable trade and high trust. A pack van, the mechanic's mobile store. A 5-minute visit instead of a half-day wasted. The industry boomed. The vans were welcome. The reps made a living out of knowing every customer personally. But success breeds greed. Robin Bourne and Peter Foreman saw the potential, but also the fragility of the consumables market. In 1977, they established Trust Parts, a leaner, more efficient operation designed to undercut competitors and provide a testbed for better pricing and service models. Meanwhile, Motalink itself was readied for sale. Bourne and Foreman knew that if they exited, someone else would own the brand, and they wanted to protect their market insight. By 1983, Motalink was sold to the Barnes Group. The buyers inherited a sprawling network of vans and accounts, but not the culture that made it work. Sales staff churned, prices had quietly climbed sometimes to twice retail, eroding goodwill. Profitability tumbled, Barnes blamed the salesman was squeezed. Meanwhile, Trust Parts remained in Bourne and Foreman's hands. They ran it lean, undercut Barnes-owned Motalink and maintained a profitable, disciplined model. By 1993, Trustparts itself was sold to Caverdale plc. Bourne and Foreman's second exit. Their insight and timing preserved value, but the wider market was already shifting beneath them. The UK's industrial landscape was changing rapidly. Coal pit closures destroyed much of the dedicated coal haulage work. Factory shutdowns shrank industrial transport. Import-led economy shifted freight into the hands of shipping companies. Consumables vans lost their core clientele, not because they were unreliable, but because there were fewer workshops and haulage firms needing their weekly visits. Vans tried to diversify. Plant hire, mobile cranes, farms, hobbyists, even bicycle repairers. Operational costs rose, pushing up prices. Consumables vans lost traction. Tools vans, such as Snap-on and Mack, remained profitable. The last attempt, the sweeper van, carrying DIY packs to scrape whatever sales remained. 1995, Barnes Motalink slims the sales force. 1997, reps in cars try to sell leftover Bowman inventory. A doomed model later echoed by Worth. The internet arrives and everything changes. Next day delivery, online catalogues, digital procurement, price comparison. The consumables van, once the beating heart of haulage workshops, was no longer required. The aftermath. Caverdale reinvents itself but eventually collapses. The remnants consolidate online, and today what's left, FST Consumables, survives as a single warehouse operating under multiple trading names. The era of the mobile industrial shop is over. And that brings us back to the mystery. Why are there almost no photos? 1950s hardware vans barely exist in archives, and consumable vans. Just a few traces. My three images, the Motalink advert, the low-res interior and the job advert, are all that remain. Search engines offer nothing, because if it wasn't photographed and uploaded, it doesn't exist. Which is why this video matters. It's a record of something that kept Britain's workshops moving for decades. A vanished but vital chapter of engineering and transport. The consumables van was the last evolution of a centuries-old tradition. The shop that came to you. It may have gone, almost completely erased, but through stories and surviving images, its memory survives.